Chapter 71 Making the Elixir of Felicity and Malfoy's Apology. You are listening at novelfull.audio. After the pure blood theory, another theory became popular in Slytherin: power comes first. Smart wizards can feel the change in the mood of Slytherin, and John is like a drop of ink falling into white paint. No matter how pure it is, it will change. Knowing this, Dumbledore said to himself, "Do you want to let the Heirs' eyes fall on you, John? This is too risky." He knew that this was a joke used by John to sow hatred. This posture of stepping on pure blood to the high platform, if the heir was indifferent, would make the opening of the secret room a joke, and if the heir takes action, his goal is not John, which means he is afraid of John. No matter which one it is, it will be enough to make the panic in the school disappear. John Wick, he has established prestige in the school, and even instilled his own theory in the students. Ambitious, John, I hope you're not like that. Dumbledore sighed. He didn't know if it was right for him to do so. John was really too much like another person. Don't look at John's stubbornness in the defense against the dark arts classroom. In fact, he is already refining the Felicity Elixir. For such an extremely complicated thing, even he needs to be careful. Looking at the boiled Felix Elixir, it was a life-saving medicine for himself. After all, he didn't want to make fun of his own life. He spent a lot of money to get the ingredients for the Felicity Elixir, and now the Johnny Silverhand's store is on the right track. John is not short of money, but it is very difficult to get the ingredients of Felicity Elixir under such circumstances. If it weren't for the lack of ready-made Felicity Elixir in the market, John wouldn't have to boil it himself. I hope that snake won't come out again during this time. During the period of making the Elixir of Felicity, John did not forget to continue to strengthen his own strength. Instead of pointing his wand forward this time, he pointed it at the ground. Induction. With his eyes closed, John's wand released bursts of sonar-like ripples that spread outward. Everything touched is fed back into John's mind, and the picture is constructed. It was just a rough floor plan, but John was pleasantly surprised. Although it's just a prototype, the super sensation charm does work. This is a spell he created himself. Through the magic theory in Book of Spells and Toxic Magic, John created the first spell. This spell can strengthen the induction, and sense the surrounding things through the magic power diffused around. John named it the Sense Charm. With this spell, John doesn't need to use his eyes to observe the movement of that thing. As long as it doesn't have those deadly eyes, it's a tooth-pulling tiger. Pulling out the Ironwick sword, John touched the blood stained on it. In his first confrontation with the opponent, he suffered a big loss. After that one-on-one fight against Slytherin, John was already talking about it in defense against the dark arts class. Even Lockhart felt that he was a little too redundant. Under John's teaching, the knowledge that was missing in the previous school year quickly filled the students' minds. Harry couldn't help expressing emotion, and said, it would be great if John was the defense against the dark arts professor. Ron next to him thought so, but Hermione was a little disappointed. Harry noticed something was wrong, and comforted him. What's the matter, Hermione? Don't worry, with John here, the heir of Slytherin would not dare to do anything to you. They learned about the story of the Slytherin Chamber of Secrets in the History of Magic class, and the heir opened the Chamber of Secrets to purify Hogwarts, but with John's previous actions, the students were less panicked. Harry and the others thought Hermione was because of this. Hermione shook her head and said, it's not because of that. John is too smart, and I'm like an idiot. My God, Hermione, what do you want me and Harry to do? Ron screamed sadly, is this also called a fool? Then they are two brainless guys. Only Hermione knew that she actually memorized them all by rote. She is not as smart as everyone thinks, but she spent 3 times or even 10 times the efforts of others. But such efforts were far behind John, and he was still trying to catch up, and John was already able to be a professor assistant. The self-confidence that had been built up with great difficulty was destroyed by John again, which made Hermione unable to cheer up. In order to cheer Hermione up, the 3 little ones went to the corridor where Mrs. Norris had an accident. Here they found spiders, and the sight of Ron terrified of spiders made Hermione feel better and giggle. They shifted their suspicions to pure bloods. The first is Malfoy. Entering the girls' bathroom, they encounter Myrtle. We just want to ask you if you have seen anything interesting recently. Hermione asked Myrtle. A cat was attacked right outside your door on Hallows' Eve. Harry also pressed, did you see anyone around that night? Myrtle recalled that she was teased by Peeves that day and met John when she came back. John said that he had encountered the big snake in the corridor, so the three little ones had no doubts. It's just a pity they didn't get useful leads. Hermione has a plan to refine compound potions, but this plan is time-consuming and also needs Harry's help. Harry didn't know how to help at first, until he went to Lockhart to get an autograph. This made Harry very uncomfortable, and he felt that he might as well fight the troll. It's just that this plan made Hermione a little apprehensive, and hesitated. Should we tell John? Tell John? Harry was surprised. I mean, it's Slytherin after all, and Malfoy is John's friend too. Ron didn't take it seriously, and said, come on. Malfoy also said that Muggle wizards deserve to die. If it weren't for him, we wouldn't have seen John teach Slytherin a good show. Ron really felt good, but it was a pity that Malfoy didn't go on stage that day and was beaten out by John. Hearing what he said, Hermione no longer hesitated. They planned to refine the compound potion. John finds Baron the Bloody Man. Mr. Barrow, I want you to make the ghosts in the castle pay more attention. Bloody Barrow is the scariest ghost in Hogwarts. If he comes out, all the ghosts in the castle will be obedient. Seeing John find him, Bloody Barrow nodded and said, I can bring you a message. John was one of the few people who dared to talk to the Bloody Barrow, and the Bloody Man Barrow also recognized John's strength. After letting the ghosts in the castle provide information for him, John did not forget that he still had the Marauder's map. Using the Marauder's map, John watched the people coming and going on the map. He said to himself, I'll see how long you can hide. The focus is on the girls' bathroom on the second floor. John guessed that this was the entrance to the secret room, but unfortunately he didn't know how to open it. In the bedroom, John is exercising. His current magic power has reached level 4, and his body has become stronger. Tom runs after Basil. After John's workout, there was a knock on his door. After opening the door, it was Malfoy. At this time, Malfoy had guilt and fear on his face. After seeing John open the door, he first said, I'm sorry, John. Malfoy was really scared, not only because John was flexing his muscles in the defense against the dark arts classroom, but also because he was afraid of losing John as a friend. He doesn't have many friends, because of his consistent meanness and arrogance. There are only two guys around him, Gower and Crabbe, who don't know whether they are friends or followers. The only friend, in detail, is only John, those Quidditch teammates. Their friendliness was directed at Malfoy's name and money. Only John was facing Draco Malfoy, and it was because he knew this that he chose to bow his head. After the attack, Malfoy found himself surrounded by more and more people. This feeling made him so ecstatic that he uttered the words that hurt others. John watched Malfoy apologize to him. He nodded and said, I accept your apology. You accept it? Malfoy was stunned, and John asked back with a strange look, I accept your apology. What's wrong with that? No, then, you're not angry. Malfoy was a little confused. John chuckled and said, Draco, what do you want? Do you want me to cast a curse on you? Malfoy shuddered and said awkwardly, that's not necessary. Strength comes first, Draco. You should understand that no matter if it is a pure blood or a famous family, they are not equal to their own strength. I hope you will remember this. John didn't want Malfoy to fall to the Death Eaters. He said earnestly, remember what I said, for eternal glory. For eternal glory. Malfoy heaved a sigh of relief, and at the same time he also understood how stupid he was before. The two let go of their grudges and became friends again. Chapter 72 The Crazy Bludger and Malfoy's Changes. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Saturday, John was invited to watch a Quidditch match, and Malfoy vowed to let Harry Potter eat ashes on his broom, and Malfoy kindly nicknamed Harry, Scarhead. In this regard, John stared at Malfoy's big back and hesitated to speak. If he has a scarred head, you can't be an oily head. Gore and Crabbe were temporarily loaned to John and became the pioneers. After arriving at the Quidditch pitch, John found himself thinking too much. Wherever he passed, the Slytherin students made way for him. It looked like the courtiers who welcomed the new king to the throne supported the emperor, and Hermione and the others noticed this scene. Sitting in the Slytherin auditorium, Daphne sat next to John. John, you look like a king. Just now Daphne borrowed John's light to come over without hindrance. She smiled nicely, blinked her eyes and worshipped. Power comes first, doesn't it? Your badge is so beautiful, I knew you would not be content with being ordinary. Daphne stared at John's badge, which was something like a family sigil. and she guessed that John needed to form a group. She boldly asked sideways, "When will I get it?" John chuckled and said, "There will be a chance, for eternal glory." Daphne also smiled, nodded vigorously and said, "For eternal glory." Attention returned to the Quidditch pitch. With the sound of Ms. Hooch's whistle, 14 team members leaped into the grey sky together. Harry flew higher than everyone else. He was the seeker, he had to see and hear. "Are you all right, Scarhead?" Nimbus 2001 was showing off his speed, and Malfoy was showing off to Harry like a kid with a new toy. Harry didn't have time to respond to this behavior. At this moment, a black bludger flew towards Harry. Harry barely dodged it by a hair, and for a split second he felt the ball brush his hair as it flew by. A feeling of gratitude and fear rose in my heart. George saw this scene and came up with a bat to drive away the bludger. The bludger that was hit changed its trajectory towards the Slytherin players, and the bludger changed direction and flew towards Harry again. "How is this going?" Harry was so frightened that he ran away quickly. George didn't believe in evil, and flew out again, and the bludger seemed to have spotted Harry, and ran towards Harry's head. The scene had a familiar feel to Harry, the bludger that had lost control of his broom when he had lost control of it the previous school year. He lowered the broom head and accelerated to the other end of the court. Even without turning his head, he could still hear the whistling sound of the bludger chasing after him. "Harry!" Fred yelled, and Harry bowed his head tacitly. Fred gathered his strength and hit the bludger with a club. The bludger hit and flew sideways, and Fred thought it was over. However, the bludger seemed to be attracted by magnetism, and chased towards Harry again. It was raining from an overcast sky, and big drops hit Harry's face. His glasses were blurred by the rain, and he couldn't see the rest of the field clearly. Only the voice of the commentator Lee Jordan, "Slytherin lead, 60-0. Bringing funds into the team is different. With Nimbus 2001, the strength of the entire Slytherin team has been raised to a higher level, and Harry, being chased by the crazy bludgers, had no time to look for the snitch. The ball was abnormal, and Fred motioned for Wood to call a timeout. This move drew Slytherins to laugh. Anyone could tell the ball had been tampered with. Wood was distraught. Slytherins were better equipped than they were, and the only hope was thwarted by the bludger again. Timeouts were limited, and in the end Harry decided to deal with the bludger himself, while the others concentrated on scoring. The game resumed as Ms. Hooch blew the whistle again. The rain was getting heavier, and Harry had just flown up when he heard the sound of bludgers chasing him. He had no choice but to hold on to the bludger as much as possible, and at the same time thought to himself, could it be Malfoy's conspiracy? That he thought Malfoy had cast a spell on it, but it was impossible to think about it. He circled in the sky, drawing Malfoy's jeers. The bludger has to hit people to death just like looking for him. Seeing that his team was about to lose, Harry was extremely irritable. The same goes for Hermione and Ron in the audience. "Let me knock it down." Ron wanted to make a shot, but was stopped by Hermione, not to mention whether he could hit the end bludger, and he couldn't hit it at this distance alone. At this moment, Harry dived to avoid the bludger and rushed towards the Slytherin auditorium. The Slytherin student stepped back and screamed in fright. "Harry, this way." Harry heard the call and looked up to see John in the Slytherin audience. He tried to avoid it, but John let him go. Gritting his teeth, Harry rushed to John. "Run!" Goyle yelled and ran away, and Daphne found that John hadn't left. John stared at the bludger, and he realized that the bludger had been cursed. Could it be the air? "Why don't Harry come and me?" John was a little puzzled, but still chose to shoot. As Harry turned the corner, John's eyes turned vertical. When the bludger passed by, he made a decisive shot to catch it. John was forced to take a step back because of the impact of the bludger. The bludger was firmly grasped, and John took out his wand with his left hand. Fubutub Captain. The bludger who was chasing after him stopped struggling. John let go of his hand, and the bludger flew away normally. "You caught the bludger with your bare hands." It was the first time Daphne saw someone dare to do this. John shrugged and said, "This is the second time." Compared with the last time, John's body was stronger, and he was not injured after being caught. It's just that this macho behavior made all the Slytherin students stare. In the Gryffindor auditorium, Hermione clapped her hands excitedly and said, "I knew John would help." Ron swallowed and said, "Is he human? Why is there nothing wrong with him?" "Scarhead, are you practicing ballet?" Malfoy sneered when he saw Harry circling around. Harry was irritated by being chased just now, and finally got rid of the bludger. He caught a glimpse of a golden light behind Malfoy. A moment of carelessness prevented Malfoy from noticing this scene. This made Harry sweep away the haze, and he wanted to approach quietly, for fear of alarming Malfoy, but his unusual behavior eventually alerted Malfoy, who looked up and saw the snitch. The golden snitch. Malfoy was overwhelmed with surprise, and Harry didn't care too much, and rushed up directly. The two collided in the air, and Harry felt as if his hand was about to break a bone. Malfoy cursed, but didn't budge, chasing the golden snitch. The two kept colliding in the sky. At the end the snitch swooped down, and the two chased after them. Malfoy faltered as he was about to hit the ground, and Harry was desperate. He caught the golden snitch, and he fell down again and fell. Unconscious, Lee Jordan excitedly announced Gryffindor's victory, and Harry was woken up and opened his eyes. He saw Lockhart running over to treat him, and he was so frightened that he refused inarticulately. However, it was too late for him to say it. Lockhart cast a healing spell, and Harry was sent to the school hospital. Seeing this scene, John was speechless. Don't use magic if you can, you're still in a hurry, right? That what could have been solved in a day, because Lockhart's healing spell would have to stay in the school hospital for a week. John shook his head. Maybe Harry couldn't win if he didn't stop the bludger, but that would violate his promise to his friends. Harry was taken to the school hospital, where John saw Marcus Flint express his displeasure at Malfoy for not catching the snitch. This made Malfoy very angry, and secretly said, "Sure enough, it is the same as what John said, only strength belongs to oneself." Seeing that the other party was still arrogant with the Nimbus 2001 bought at a huge price, Malfoy agreed with John. Chapter 73 The Star Club and the Sewer. You are listening at novelfull.audio. What should I do, John? Malfoy was a little confused, which was different from what he was taught at home. He was down the corridor, without Goyle and Crabbe. John said lightly, "As I said, you know." Malfoy looked up, the badge on John's chest glowing. "I join you?" he asked. "No." John shook his head and said calmly, "You are not good enough now, Draco. Try to become stronger, so that I can respect you." That I didn't expect to be rejected as soon as I opened my mouth. If I were Malfoy before, I might turn my face, but now Malfoy was unwilling to reconcile and strengthened his determination to become stronger. John patted him on the shoulder and said with a smile, "The only reason why Harry is stronger than you is his unwavering heart. I see. When I do it, I hope you will wear it for me yourself." Malfoy nodded vigorously. John smiled slightly, stroked the badge on his chest with his right hand, bowed and said with a smile, "I call it the Stars, and you will be one of them." The Society of Stars is like Dumbledore's Order of the Phoenix. Those who can enter are the talents that John valued. Malfoy can't get in yet, but it won't be long before he can be one of them. Malfoy felt his heart beating fast, and he tried to bow in the same position as John. In the school hospital, John knew that the bludger was abnormal this time. While visiting Harry, he hopes to find clues. Harry was forced to drink a large glass of bone spirit, which John hadn't tasted, but it definitely wasn't going to taste good. "John." Hermione saw John coming, walked over and said, "Thanks to you, Harry might have been hit by that bludger to death. It's too serious to be killed. I'm just doing my friend a favor." John waved his hand, walked up to Harry, and asked with a smile, "Harry, how do you feel?" "Too bad, I mean the taste." Harry's face was full of bitterness. The taste of raw bones was really not very good. More importantly, it was the pain when the bones grew out. Be patient. Speaking of which, the bone spirit is still a product of the Potter family. John suppressed a smile. There was a potion master in Harry's ancestors, and the bone spirit was the product of his research. Harry was said to be a little skeptical of life, and this thing was invented by himself. Not joking with Harry anymore, John asked in a low voice, "That bludger attacked you, maybe it was done by the heir." "I don't know why he attacked you, but it's not good news." The three little ones nodded in agreement, especially Ron, who cursed, "Damn Malfoy." Malfoy? John was taken aback for a moment, wondering why he had anything to do with Malfoy. Embarrassed, Hermione said, "We think the heir is Malfoy." John looked like you were kidding me, shook his head and denied, "It's not him, that bludger has been cursed, and Draco doesn't have this ability." Ron stubbornly thought it was Malfoy, and said sullenly, but maybe he has other methods in the Chamber of Secrets? Well, that's a reason, but Draco is under my nose, he won't do it. John denied it again, which made the three little ones look at each other in blank dismay. John stayed and secretly left a badge under Harry's pillow and left. After he left, Ron, one of the three little ones, complained, "Look, I know." Hermione grumbled, and stared. John is just a good guy, he might not have thought that Malfoy would do this. Anyway, let's make the compound potion first, and then we'll get evidence. Harry also knew that he had to produce evidence. Similarly, he paid attention to John's words. Could it be that the Bludger was the heir who cast a spell to kill him? At night, John returned to the dormitory from the room of requirement, and Tom in the dormitory did not chase Basil, but stared at the Marauder's map. This is the task John entrusted to it. As long as he sees someone going to the girls' bathroom, let Tom tell himself. Tom, who was assigned to the task, was more focused than ever. John was exercising when he heard Tom screaming. Appeared. John stood up like a carp, ran to the Marauder's map, and looked at the names of the girls' bathrooms on it. Ginny. Seeing the name, John froze. It never occurred to him that it would be a member of the Weasley family. The heir of Slytherin is the family of Wanyan Gryffindor. John felt weird. It felt like Gryffindor had found a Slytherin heir. Well, Gryffindor did find a Slytherin. John frowned. Ginny Weasley made him a little tricky. This is a child of the Weasley family, and that family has never been intimidated by Voldemort, but the most urgent task is to catch the person and know how to open the secret room at the same time. Seeing that Ginny had entered the girls' bathroom, John cast a disillusionment spell on himself and went out, in the corridor on the second floor. John has already used the fastest speed. He stared at the Marauder's map all the way, watching Ginny disappear into the map. The Chamber of Secrets has been opened. John quickened his pace, and when he reached the bathroom, it was empty. Have you entered? John refused to give up and turned around in the bathroom, not even letting go of the faucet. This is. Finding a tap, John noticed the difference. It has the mark of the snake on it, the mark of Slytherin. Is it here? John took 2 steps back, drew his wand and cast the unlocking charm. Araho Cave is open. There was no response from the faucet, and John continued to try several times in disbelief. It still doesn't seem to work. This is an advanced spell. Frowning tightly, John didn't know when Ginny would come out, or if she was still here when she came out, and whether the big snake will come out of the secret room is also a problem. With various problems, John decided to wait on the second floor. He wasn't in the girls' bathroom because he was afraid that a big snake would suddenly appear and kill him. He checked some information, and after knowing the appearance of the big snake, John quickly knew the name of the big snake, Basilisk, a magical creature created by humans. According to the records, Slytherin had once cultivated it. If it was really that one, this basilisk might have lived for nearly 1,000 years. This is eternal life. John smashed his mouth. Nicole Flamel made himself physically old through the Philosopher's Stone and lived for more than 600 years, and this basilisk has lived for almost 1,000 years. During the waiting time, John did not forget to pay attention to Harry. If Ginny was the heir, why was Harry being attacked? The badge he left with Harry can remind John that when the badge lights up at this time, it means that there are magical fluctuations around Harry. Opening the Marauder's map, John saw Dobby's name. He was slightly taken aback, ready to use the badge to hear when John saw Ginny's name appear on the Marauder's map. Out. John lifted his spirits and cast the disillusionment charm on himself. Before approaching the bathroom, John heard the familiar crawling sound. Out. John wanted to use the shattering curse to find the way, but he was afraid of hitting Ginny. He didn't see Ginny coming out, and John closed his eyes, tapping his wand lightly on the ground. Induction. The magic spread out and John saw what was going on in the girls' bathroom. Ginny was standing over the faucet, and a strange sound came from her mouth. The position of the faucet was replaced by another passage, and John sensed that this passage was connected to a huge space. Slytherin's Chamber of Secrets. John instantly understood that Ginny had just come out of the secret room, and Ginny's state was not right. After Ginny turned and came out, the passage was closing. John had already sensed the basilisk leaving, and he rushed in with the disillusionment charm before the passage was closed. The body fell freely, and John's eyes with night vision saw clearly the situation below. The moment it landed, he used the flying boots to stabilize it, and John hit the ground again. A burst of magic spread out, and a passage within 100 meters appeared. Is this connected to the sewer? John looked at the direction of friction movement on the ground, and he knew that the basilisk was coming out. Where did you go? One side might be the Slytherin chamber, the other the direction of the basilisk. John hesitated again and again, but chose the basilisk. The appearance of the basilisk this time is likely to be life-threatening, so he followed the direction of the basilisk, and after walking a certain distance, John found the basilisk. You didn't come to look for me, you really didn't pay attention to me. John let the air find him. Could it be that Ginny is concerned about her relationship with his brother and Harry? The basilisk was going into a pipe, and John chased it directly. Seeing that the basilisk turned its back to him, John didn't hesitate, and opened his hand directly. Bones in pieces. Reducto. Level 4 mana coupled with a level 4 shattering spell. The damage of this blow can be directly maxed out to reach the aura level. The scales on the basilisk were hit, and a part of the spell bounced off and smashed into a large hole in the wall. John closed his eyes, holding the wand in his left hand and the sword in his right. He noticed that there seemed to be something wrong with the basilisk. When the basilisk turned its head, John discovered that the basilisk was missing an eye under the supernatural spell. When the basilisk saw John again, the enemy was extremely jealous and rushed over with a roar. Chapter 74 Parseltongue and Dragon Tone. You are listening at novelfull.audio. That I should have been injured by John last time. With his eyes closed, John kept hitting the ground with his wand. When the basilisk came over, he turned on his flying boots to avoid it, and John waved his wand to explode white light onto the body of the basilisk. I am a fire dragon. The sword ignited raging flames, and John slashed down in the air, and the sword cut across the scales of the basilisk and stuck on it. The basilisk rolled over in pain. John was thrown and couldn't stand still. The wand was aimed at the wound of the basilisk, and John kept attacking. Bones in pieces. Reducto. Bones in pieces. Reducto. Bones in pieces. Reducto. 3 streaks of white light exploded on the basilisk, and scales splashed from the basilisk's wound. Under the pain, the basilisk slammed into the sewer, and John's back made close contact with the wall, and he was almost killed. The blade was more embedded in the body under the impact, and John had no choice but to let go, perhaps because of old age, except for the eyes. The basilisk's other senses are not as good as before. John used the transfiguration spell to transform the surrounding things into sharp thorns, but the scales of the basilisk were hard, and they crushed them directly to open a path. Want to run? Noticing that the basilisk's aggressive intent had weakened, John realized that the basilisk wanted to get out of this hostile environment. Although the sewer is big, it can't support the basilisk's body, which makes the basilisk inflexible. The basilisk opened its mouth and spit out a splatter of venom. John used the iron armor curse to block it, but found that the iron armor curse was corroded. So fierce. Startled suddenly, John hurriedly dodged away. The venomous basilisk wilted, and John seized the opportunity to cast a spell. Flaming. Incendio. Flames spewed out from the chopstick-like tips to form a cloud of flames, and John waved his wand, and under his control the flames rushed towards the basilisk. The basilisk was so burned by the flames that it neighed, and turned around and rushed to the sewer. John saw it fleeing, so he stretched out his right hand and shook it. I am a fire dragon. The sword of iron wick, which had been embedded in the snake to extinguish the flame, was ignited again, and the basilisk was burned by the flame and the pain was unbearable. It rampaged in the sewer, hit John with its tail, and shattered 2 of the amulets on his body. Hiss, almost died. When he hit the wall, his internal organs seemed to be squeezed into a ball. If there was no amulet, he might be gone by now. The basilisk fled with the sword of iron wick. John adjusted his breathing, took out the enhancement potion from the small bag and drank it in one gulp. After recovering, John chased after him relying on his sense of iron wick's sword. Colin, are you going? Of course, I want to see Harry Potter. Colin Creevy had the camera, and he had grapes and other fruit. He had seen the most exciting Quidditch game today, and he had come to visit the injured Harry. He was a little reserved, and beside him was his fellow Gryffindor student, Sylvia Bradley. the girl was a good-looking girl with a compassionate and friendly personality, a wizard from a Muggle family. She is Colin's good friend in Gryffindor. And Colin also has some feelings in it. Colin didn't know either, he seemed to like this girl. Originally, Sylvia Bradley didn't want to go there, because the frightening rumors about the secret room were circulating in the school. They Muggle wizards were likely to be purged, which made Sylvia sleepless with terror. Fortunately, John Wick appeared in time and declared war on the air with a strength so powerful that Slytherin would be overwhelmed. It made Sylvia Bradley feel less dangerous. The two walked towards the school hospital, and Colin took a camera to record Hogwarts along the way. Just as he was about to arrive at the school hospital, there was a noisy sound from a pipeline. Sylvia was a little scared and asked, "What's that sound?" "Do not know." Colin was also a little scared. He picked up the camera and wanted to take a picture. At this moment, a huge head drilled out of a pipe connected to the wall, and Colin subconsciously pressed the shutter. The basilisk rushed out of the sewer. The scales on its body were shattered, the emerald green scales turned black, and the eyes were so smoked that they could not be opened. Hearing the shutter sound, the basilisk rushed in that direction. Colin and Sylvia screamed, feeling like they were going to die. Impedimento. The basilisk slowed down, and John rushed out of the sewer. His eyes turned into vertical pupils, and he raised his hand to summon the sword of Ironwick. "I am a fire dragon." Ironwick's sword burned, and the basilisk roared in pain. John took the opportunity to pull out his wand and wave it at the two little Gryffindor wizards. The two were pushed away by the levitation charm. John noticed that the basilisk was about to open its eyes, and his wand shot white light again and hit the basilisk on the head. The basilisk turned its head away in pain, and John took the opportunity to turn his head and shouted to the two little wizards, "Run, call the professor." The basilisk is 50 feet tall, and just being there makes one's legs go weak. John's voice brought the two back to their senses, but John also paid the price for this sentence. He was hit by the basilisk and almost flew out. Enduring the pain, John hit the basilisk again with the crushing spell. "One person, one snake, you come and go." John's magic power is not enough. Veriverto. Turning the torch into a rope and wrapping it around the basilisk, John launched his flying boots and stepped on the air, jumped onto the back of the basilisk and held the hilt of the sword. "I am a fire dragon." He let out a sound that seemed to be roaring dragon language, and the flames on the sword body became hotter, burning the scales, and the sword was pulled out bit by bit. Pulling out the blade, blood splashed on John's body, and John felt a prickly pain on his skin. The rope snapped, John fell, and the basilisk acted like a madman. Just when John was about to give it a fatal blow, a strange tone came. Immediately afterwards, the basilisk seemed to regain its composure, and turned its head towards the pipe. John naturally didn't let it escape, and when he was about to continue his attack, a magic spell hit John with a white light. "Your uncle's." The amulet was exhausted during the battle with the basilisk, and John flew out with a pain in his back. He turned his head, and a figure jumped into the pipe with the basilisk. John wanted to chase but was powerless. He said viciously, "Young people don't talk about martial arts, so come for a sneak attack." The movement here quickly attracted the attention of the professor, and the two of them called the professor. John almost fainted when he saw the person. John, are you okay?" There was still a curler in Lockhart's hair, and John said angrily, "I can't die." He rubbed his back and stood up, but if any other professor came, he would chase towards the sewer. However, Lockhart came, and John thought that with him, at most, the basilisk would be full. John's attitude was not friendly. Lockhart smiled sarcastically. "What happened here?" Other professors also came one after another. Seeing the devastated state of the corridor, Professor McGonagall's eyes widened. John directly threw Lockhart to block the knife for himself. He just wanted to lie down now, with a shattering curse on his back, and he felt like his waist was about to break. Lockhart immediately understood, and vividly talked about how he fought the monster. The professors who came turned their eyes to John tacitly, but John's face was not very good. "John Wick, what's the matter with you?" Professor McGonagall was the first to notice something was wrong. John's face was pale and his lips were bloodless. Professor Snape came out to check. He saw the blood on John's clothes. He frowned and said, "There is poison in it." This sentence made people quite frightened. Fortunately, the school hospital was not far away, so he was carried there. Harry knew that Dobby was controlling the Bludger, and he was so angry that he wanted to strangle Dobby. Knowing that the Chamber of Secrets had been opened, he wanted to ask, but he heard movement from outside. Dobby operates away. Harry hurriedly lay down on the bed and pretended to be asleep. He opened his eyes and looked towards the door. The first thing that came in was Snape, who seemed to be holding someone. Then came Professor McGonagall, then Sprout, and Professor Flitwick was too short for Harry to notice. Then Dumbledore came too. They gathered around the hospital bed. Dumbledore's serious face relaxed slightly. "Thank God, you saved the two little wizards." Thanks to John for reminding Dumbledore to ask the professor to strengthen the patrol, otherwise they would not have come so neatly. Colin saw the basilisk and went crazy to find the professors. Dumbledore knew that if John hadn't been there, the two little wizards would surely have died. Madame Pomfrey came and screamed because John looked like he was going to die in a second. After an examination, it was found that the most serious injury was the shattering curse, but John's body was strong enough to lie down overnight. The blood is poisonous, but John has a good resistance to poison, so he probably will have diarrhea. The professors breathed a sigh of relief. Dumbledore had something to say, so let's wait until tomorrow. After the professor had finished walking, Harry got off the hospital bed and walked towards John. Harry was taken aback by John's first words. "Harry, get me a taffy from your tribute." John's stomach growled. He hadn't eaten yet. Chapter 75 Heirs and Protectors. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The next day. Have you heard? Of course, John Wick, so handsome. I didn't expect him to be real. He is our protector. I heard Colin say it with my own ears, and there are pictures. Oh my God, that thing is horrible. Harry was out of the hospital, and he found Hermione and Ron, who were making compound potions in the girls' bathroom. My God, Harry, is that true? Ron was so excited beyond words that he had a photo in his hand. The above is that the basilisk was hit by John with a spell after it came out. I have to say that Colin is really a photographer, and the photo was just right as if it was staged. Even the hair flying across John's face was captured just right. Ron wanted to confirm with Harry, because this happened near the school hospital. Harry must have seen it too. Harry was a little embarrassed. He was talking to Dobby at the time and didn't notice it, but he did see John being taken to the school hospital. Hermione raised her heart, and she asked worriedly, "Is John seriously injured?" "Do not." Harry remembered that John had eaten all his taffy yesterday, and said with a strange expression, "He's fine, he's just hungry." It was an answer that Ron couldn't even imagine, and Hermione breathed a sigh of relief. Immediately, Hermione thought of a question, and hesitated. "Should we continue? I mean compound medicine." Originally, they made the compound potion to pry something out of Malfoy's mouth, but John even repelled the monster, which seemed to be useless for what they were doing. Harry nodded resolutely, and said seriously, "Of course, have you forgotten that Malfoy once slandered Muggle wizards?" John met that thing. Maybe Malfoy wanted to kill John. It's no wonder Harry thought so. Malfoy was making a fuss at the beginning, and because of this incident, John started the feat of single-handedly defeating all Slytherins. With Malfoy's haughty personality, it is not impossible to open the Chamber of Secrets and allow the monster to take revenge and kill John. Hermione couldn't sit still at the thought of her friend being in danger. They were still short of some compounding ingredients, so Hermione turned to Snape. As a master of potions, no one has more materials than Snape. Monday, John was discharged from the hospital, and Ms. Pomfrey looked at John with a strange look on her face, because John said he was hospitalized. It would be better to say he was staying in a hotel, and he never stopped eating. John has a good appetite, and he thinks it may have something to do with being poisoned, but didn't it mean that I would have diarrhea? Why did my appetite improve instead? John, who couldn't figure it out, stopped being entangled. As he walked in the school, adoring eyes were cast on him. He walked to the bulletin board and saw the top photo. It would be a great loss for Colin not to be a photographer. Seeing how handsome he was in this photo, John wondered if he was posing for a photo. Now no one will doubt what John said, because he really did what he said. The Weasley twins didn't know where to get a bunch of John's things, and they hawked, "Protector John Wick's personal socks, protect you from the heirs." Wait, why do you have my socks? John thought Fred was just saying it casually, but it turned out that it was really his own. George said confidently, "Of course it's yours, we never sell fakes." Fred blinked, and said in a low voice, "We paid a lot of money to get someone to open the door for us. There are bad people among the masses, Slytherin was actually bribed, there is no reason." John's face darkened, he approached George and Fred, and whispered, 50-50. "What? We spent money." Regardless of the protests of the two, John glanced at them and said lightly, "Then I will declare that you are selling fakes. This is the life of the two of them, this thing is so popular, they have sold a lot of it, if it is said to be false, they must not be chased and beaten." George said viciously, "Take it, you Slytherin." John was satisfied, and asked if he had a brand new set of pencils and could buy them separately. Although he has money, no one will be troubled by money. John met Neville, seeing that Neville was still wearing his own scarf, John fell silent. "Why are you wearing my scarf?" Neville scratched his head, embarrassed. "This feeling is like being caught wearing Pinru's clothes." John wanted to say that people should not be judged by appearances, but he didn't expect Neville to be such a person. Fortunately, Neville explained that he bought the amulet from the twins, otherwise John would have to consider whether he should keep his distance. "Don't you have a sword I made with my own hands? What's the use of getting a scarf?" As if looking at a fool, John was speechless. Neville thought about it carefully, and it seemed that the sword was more useful than the scarf. After arranging a strengthening package for Neville, John was not safe in class. Wizards from other courtyards always squeezed in, it seemed that they felt more secure this way. Defense against the dark arts class. John saw what Lockhart was drawing on the paper. It seemed to be designing a stage. Get out of class has ended. John found Percy, hoping he could take Ginny to Whomping Willow. "Don't you like Ginny?" Percy looked vigilant. Ginny was his sister, and she would never let anyone harbor ill intentions. John is speechless. "What are you thinking? Just Ginny, that little brat who has nothing." After repeatedly assuring that he would absolutely never like Ginny, John saw that Percy half-heartedly agreed. Now that the two are in a cooperative relationship, John should not hurt Ginny. This can still be guaranteed. The reason why John chose Percy instead of Ron or the Weasley twins was that they were afraid that they would cause trouble. Compared with Percy, other people are more uncertain, especially the twins. If they engage in eavesdropping or something, wouldn't they be embarrassed? Although it has been confirmed that the heir is Ginny, John did not expose it immediately. He was very puzzled, why Weasley's people were able to open the Chamber of Secrets. Where did she know about it? And the crushing curse, which didn't seem like something that could be used in the first grade. With doubts in mind, John came to the Whomping Willow in the afternoon. The Whomping Willow had fully recovered, and a bird flew over and was beaten into a ball of feathers. John was not idle while waiting, and he recalled the spell he used to enhance the flame of the sword with iron wick. Could it be stronger to read it in dragon language? That he took out the sword of iron wick and tried to say a spell. The spell uttered in dragon language made the flames on the sword gradually turn into the appearance of a fire dragon. Dragon's blood was used when enchanting, it seems to be because of this relationship. Putting away the sword, John produced his wand. He tried using the spell in Draconic, and the wand spit out a flame, and then it was gone. It doesn't seem to work. Some disappointed John sighed. After waiting for a while, he saw Ginny walking this way. Ginny's face was full of tension, and Percy kept reassuring her. After arriving, Ginny trembled a little when she saw John, and Percy explained from the side, "I'm sorry, but she was just a little scared. As you know, the monster in the secret room." "I know." John stared at Ginny, and he could see fear in Ginny's expression. This is not an act. At least it is impossible for Ginny like this to cast a shattering curse on her back. John watched her and asked softly, "Ginny, you did it, didn't you?" Ginny's body trembled, tears welled up in the corners of her eyes, and she nodded. "What did you do?" Percy wondered. Ginny choked with sobs and said, "I don't know why, I'm scared, I think he influenced me, so I threw him away." John thought about it and asked, "Who is he?" Ginny broke down in tears. She was under too much pressure during this time, and she felt as if she had unleashed the monster. Riddle, a diary. Hearing Ginny's words, Percy couldn't believe it. He looked at John, desperate for an answer. "John, tell me what happened." John pondered. "I originally thought that Ginny was chosen as the heir of Slytherin. Looking at it now, it might be the diary." Riddle, Tom Riddle, Voldemort's last name. Hearing this name, John knew that he had something to do with Voldemort. With a serious face on his face, John asked, where did you throw the diary, that he needs to get the diary before others pick it up. Chapter 76 The Missing Diary and the Dueling Club. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Three hurried figures shuttled through the Hogwarts castle. This combination is very weird. One Slytherin, two Gryffindors, one of them is the prefect of Gryffindors. They walked all the way to the girls' bathroom on the second floor, pushed open the door of the bathroom, and they walked inside. Where, Percy was really angry this time. His sister almost became the heir of Slytherin. He grabbed Ginny's shoulders, so hard that Ginny couldn't help but let out a low breath. Sorry, Ginny, come on, tell us, where is that thing? Realizing that he had reacted too violently, Percy quickly apologized. Ginny slowly reached out, pointing to a sink. John and Percy looked at each other, and as they walked over, they saw nothing. Something is missing. John frowned. Percy was anxious and irritated. He quickly turned his head and said loudly to Ginny, "Are you sure you remember correctly?" I remember it was here." Ginny was so frightened that she shed tears again, and Percy punched the mirror angrily. "Percy, stop!" John stopped him from doing this, and he shouted solemnly, "Myrtle, are you there?" "Of course I am." "Myrtle flies out of a broken toilet bowl." John breathed a sigh of relief and asked, "Is there anyone else here besides us?" "The others?" "The three students of Gryffindor." Myrtle giggled as the translucent body flew over. "It was Ron and the others. They took the diary." Percy, who once caught three little ones in the girls' bathroom, immediately thought of them, and said with a straight face, "I'll go find them." "Wait, Percy, keep quiet." John stopped him, shook his head and said, "Now the whereabouts of the diary are unknown. Let's not startle the snake. I need you to use your position to search the Gryffindor lounge." They were already close to the truth. John held down the excited Percy, and said word by word, "Until you find that person, don't tell anyone. It's not just because of Ginny." "Okay, I'll help." Percy is also a person who can get 12 certificates. He is not lacking in wisdom, but he is too rigid. Ginny's matter was known by outsiders, and I am afraid that not only himself, but also the Weasley family would be affected. Serious cases may even be sent to Azkaban. Although Percy was rigorous and rigid, he would not send his sister to Azkaban. They tacitly concealed this matter, and Ginny was comforted and brought back, during this period, in order to make sure that Ginny was not lying and to protect Ginny from being controlled a second time. John gave Ginny a Whomping Willow amulet. "Bring it on and never take it off," John warned seriously, and Ginny nodded hastily with a pale expression. "Send Ginny away." The next day, Percy found John. He personally sent Ginny back to Gryffindor Tower yesterday, and the Weasley twins found out about this scene, and they all came over to gossip, until Percy got angry and drove the two younger brothers away, and told them to keep an eye on Ginny and not let her leave alone. This made the Weasley twins suspicious, but also startled by Percy's tone. "George and Fred must think I'm crazy." Percy sighed. He also felt that he had gone too far with his brothers yesterday. John looked at Percy sympathetically. "The Weasley twins are not fuel-efficient guys. With these two younger brothers, it's no wonder Percy has a headache. Find the diary after a while, and we can end all of this. Gryffindor is handed over to you, and Penelope Clearwater will trouble you to tell me. After all, she is your girlfriend." Speaking of this, John's tone was ridiculed. How do you know?" Percy stammered, as if someone had discovered a secret. "I just happen to know that you and Penelope Clearwater were dating on patrol." John smiled. This made Percy call Merlin's beard, "This monster, what else could be hidden from him?" Percy didn't know that John owned the Marauders map, and when he was staying as the heir, he saw Percy mingling with Ravenclaw prefect Penelope Clearwater every now and then. If he didn't know this, John would just tear up the Marauders map and forget about it. After waving his hand, John left Percy with a mysterious look on his face. December comes. Before Christmas, Professor McGonagall collected the detention list as usual. Originally, John was planning to go back this Christmas, but now that the matter in the secret room has not been settled, he will not go back. Ask Basil to send a letter to Mrs. Wick with 2 wizard cards attached. Ever since Papa Watson Wick ate chocolate frog and knew there were wizard cards, he fell in love with these cards with moving figures. John was also forced to collect some. He thought about whether to exchange some with Ron, but it was a pity that the old man was obsessed with collecting by himself. Neville's chubby face became a little sharper because of the devil's training. Malfoy took the initiative to find John and wanted John to teach him. After all, after a semester, anyone could tell that John was the real defense against the dark arts teacher. For this reason, John listed a series of training plans for Malfluro, one of which, like Neville, went to the Screaming Shack to train his guts. There is one thing to say, Malfoy's guts are not much bigger than Neville's. In potions class, I don't know, some unscrupulous guy threw a firecracker into the cauldron, and the explosion splashed and the whole class became an accident. When the swelling potion was about to fly in front of him, John raised his hand subconsciously, and the potion was bounced off by the invisible barrier and flew out. Glancing at Crabbe, who was still gloating when he turned his head and was splashed, he pretended nothing happened. Professor Snape was really worried. John noticed that there were few people present who were not affected. Except for himself, only Harry was left, and Hermione didn't know where to go. He squinted his eyes, and smelled a conspiracy. John Wick, you are in charge of refining the detumescent potion. John was innocently lying on the gun, and the detumescence agent was not enough, so John was temporarily pulled in as a manpower. Bonus points. Of course, John did not give up on finding an heir. Although he did not startle the snake, all the seniors of the 4 courtyards got involved. He didn't call too many people, and when he heard it was about the heir, the prefects also actively cooperated. As a result, many dormitories were turned over, causing students from various colleges to suspect that a thief had broken into Hogwarts. Percy focused on his brother, fearing that the Weasley twins would keep a diary for fun. It's a pity that there is nothing but a bunch of mischievous props. Ron didn't let him go. He searched several times, and threw the bedridden mouse aside. A week passed. John thought this would be all right until Christmas, but he was wrong. There was an extra piece of parchment on the bulletin board, and Lockhart was at it again. So, you don't have points? John looked at Lockhart, who begged himself, telling you not to do anything. You set up a dueling club. It doesn't matter if you have a duel club, but you have the nerve to ask me to help you. John had a dark face. Lockhart shrank his neck, and said with a sneer, John, I know you have a way, just like this. He took out his amulet and ring. He experienced the benefits of this thing in a class, so he had a crooked mind. How could the great Lockhart not be in the limelight? John glanced at him, and said lightly, everything has a price, Gildero. Not Professor Lockhart, but Gilderoy. Lockhart also understood what John meant. With a struggle on his face, he finally bowed slightly and gritted his teeth and said, I hope Gilderoy Lockhart can become your friend. Well, I won't refuse a friend request. John raised his chin slightly. Lockhart belonged to his network. He was never stingy about cultivating contacts, and took out 2 rings of spells and 2 amulets from the small bag. Inside the amulet is the Iron Armor Curse, and the Calamity of Mantras are different, except for one is the Disarming Curse and the Petrification Curse. The other difference is that they are no longer one time, but can be used 3 times in a row. This is the result of John's alchemy upgrade, and this alone is enough to make Johnny the Silver Hand irreplaceable in the Auror. Lockhart felt like a treasure. At 8 o'clock in the evening, the crescent stage in the Great Hall was designed by Lockhart himself. John didn't expect that Lockhart would dare to find an assistant, and this assistant was still Professor Snape. He said with emotion, it's simply too long. Chapter 77 Full Name Chicken Raising and Harry Parseltongue. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Inside the auditorium, gone are the long tables, replaced by a gilded stage. The sky over the auditorium became velvety black, and hundreds of candles lit the stage. Dueling Club. Hogwarts students will not miss such a new thing. Almost all the students in the school came. Although the fear of the secret room was dispelled by John, they were very interested in John's heroic appearance on the duel stage last time. When they arrived, they were not disappointed when they saw the gorgeously dressed Lockhart, except for Harry and the others. This is also thanks to the lesson plan John made for him, which kept Lockhart from crashing too hard, at least in the eyes of the public. This is a wizard who doesn't like practical exercises but likes theory. The knowledge in the autobiography is still taught, and the students are even more convinced that Lockhart is not low. It's just that Harry saw how he couldn't even deal with elves, and took Harry's bones away, otherwise he wouldn't be so resistant. Ahem, be quiet, be quiet. Lockhart's sorcerer's robe was simply unremarkable. After gesturing for everyone to be quiet, his eyes focused on him. He's smiling that 5-time Witcher Weekly Award for Most Charming Smile. That's right, Professor Dumbledore allowed me to open this small dueling club and fully train everyone in case you need to defend yourself one day. I have used this method countless times to protect myself. John Wick should he has a deep understanding, he was taught by me. Lockhart began a tirade that made the students impatient. Fortunately, Lockhart still had self-knowledge. After talking for a long time, he introduced his assistant. When Snape walked onto the stage, Harry and Ron both gulped and looked at each other, suspecting that Lockhart was crazy. Don't worry, I will return your potions teacher to you intact. Lockhart blinked, unaware that the black air around Snape was about to flow out. He showed his body language exaggeratedly. Now, please ask Professor Snape to say a few words. Professor Snape said coldly, there are some idiots among you who keep roosters in your dormitory. I hope you will remember that you are a wizard after you learn to duel. The students in the audience felt guilty for a while. Someone found out that the monster in the secret room was a basilisk. After knowing that the basilisk was afraid of chickens, raising chickens became popular among the students. Now there is no need for an alarm clock in the morning, and the noise of the rooster crowing is a headache. After 2 simple sentences, Professor Snape turned to face Lockhart. Harry could tell that Snape's upper lip was curling up, a red flag. If Snape looked at him like this, he probably couldn't help but run away with weak legs. Even with a bow, Lockhart could do more than a dozen tricks, which made Snape shake his head tirelessly. The two each raised their wands vertically in front of their chests and then walked to both sides of the stage. As you can see, we hold the wand in a normal dueling position. Lockhart was still chattering, and the impatience in Snape's eyes was already evident. Lockhart counted. Both of them jerked their wands over their shoulders at the same time, and when the number reached 3, Snape struck immediately. Expelliarmus! Expelliarmus! A bright red light hit Lockhart across the distance of the stage, but Lockhart didn't fly out as Harry had guessed. The armor-like curse blocked the attack, but Lockhart hadn't reacted yet. There was some surprise in Professor Snape's eyes. You see, this is a wonderful offense and defense. After Lockhart reacted, he immediately appeared calm, and then activated the Ring of Conjuration, and red light flew from the wand to Snape. Professor Snape reacted quickly, and immediately deflected the red light to fight back. The two of you come and go, and Lockhart can always defend against Snape's curse there, the students exclaimed again and again, and the girls admired Lockhart with stars in their eyes. After going back and forth, Professor Snape became a little serious. Fuchsia, Levi Corpus, the iron armor charm reappeared to block it, and Lockhart got so carried away that he didn't notice that he had run out of amulets. He countered a petrification spell, and Snape charged the disarming spell after flying and knocked Lockhart into the air. The wand flew out of his hand, and Lockhart realized that he had run out of amulets. He hastily stopped Snape from taking the next step, stood up and laughed and said, "You see, this is the disarming curse. I lost my wand. I think I should show you." Lockhart acted as if he had been tricked on purpose. Harry and Ron looked at each other, and they felt that Lockhart's words were a little false. "Of course, if I want to stop it, I can do it without any effort, just to let you increase your knowledge." Noticing that Professor Snape's face was gloomy, Lockhart hurriedly stopped. "This is the end of the demonstration. Now I will come among you, and you two will fight in groups." The students had long been tickled by the wonderful duel just now, and they couldn't wait when they heard that the duel could start. Snape dispelled Harry's idea of training with Ron when he came up, and he looked around to find a match for Harry. After looking carefully, his eyes skipped over John. After all, this man was too dangerous. Finally locked on Malfoy, he beckoned, allowing Malfoy to communicate with the Savior in depth. John still wanted to find an opponent, but everyone subconsciously avoided him when they saw him. The scene where one person picked Slytherin was still vivid in his memory. They didn't want to seek abuse. "Can I join you?" A handsome big boy came over, and seeing that he didn't hide from him, John readily agreed. "My name is Cedric Diggory, Hufflepuff 4th year." Cedric's eyes were bright. He stared at John, imitating Snape and the others to salute just now. "John, can I call you that?" "Of course, Cedric." This big boy from Hufflepuff is very outstanding. John lightly stroked the badge with his right hand, bowed slightly, and said with a smile, "Let's get started." Cedric's smile faltered, and he cast a skillful disarming spell. John frowned, picked up red light with his wand, and fought back. He found that Cedric was very strong, at least stronger than the Slytherin he met last time. Waving the wand in his hand, all the attacks were broken by John one by one. Finding an opportunity, John hit 3 times with one stick. Langlock. Ferula. Relatio. Just as Cedric was about to recite the spell, his tongue stuck to his palate and he couldn't speak. The wizard's robe suddenly tightened and wrapped his body tightly, making him unable to move. Sparks flew to hit his body and flew backwards. He was lying on the ground with a wry smile on his face. Woo 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 woo. Mouth speechless, he pointed to his own mouth. John stepped forward to lift the spell and pulled him up. Too strong, John, you hardly seem like a student. Cedric could afford to lose. He showed admiration and asked curiously, "Are you going to be an Auror in the future?" John shrugged and said lightly, "Maybe, but Aurors are not for me." The two ended their fight, and looking back, there was no serious duel in the entire auditorium except them. Hermione huddled with a fat girl in Slytherin, throwing her wand aside, completely forgetting that she was a wizard. Finding that the situation was out of control, Lockhart yelled to stop. It was Professor Snape who prevented what happened next. Someone got hurt though, and in the end Lockhart chose to have 2 people come up to demonstrate. He wanted to call Neville, but remembering that Neville was chasing someone with that sword just now, he held back again. Snape took the opportunity to let Malfoy and Harry go up. "This is all right. The one who hit the hardest just now went up." As soon as the two went up, they were extremely jealous when they met, and Malfoy gritted his molars to avenge the hatred of being hanged upside down just now. Lockhart's countdown ended, and Malfoy immediately cast one of his best curses. Oolong out of the hole. The tip of his wand exploded, and a long black snake jumped out of the explosion smoke and landed on the floor between them. The scene made the crowd scream, and Snape had seen enough of the joke, and said lazily, "Stay still, Potter, I'll get it out of the way." However, Lockhart felt that he could do it again, and rushed out to wave his wand. The black snake flew up to a height and fell, becoming even more angry. Justin Fenley, who was next to the stage, froze as the black snake moved towards him. Harry just wanted to stop the black snake. He opened his mouth to speak to the black snake, but he spoke in a chilling tone. "Let him go." He wanted to stop the black snake, but he didn't notice that the voice he was making was Parseltongue. Everyone even thought that Harry let the black snake attack Justin Fenrieri. At this moment, another voice sounded. "Stop." Black Snake was about to feel relaxed when suddenly a pressure came over him. It looked, and the pair of vertical pupils made the black snake go limp. Seeing that figure, Justin immediately felt a sense of security. He yelled angrily at Harry, "What do you think you're playing? We've got John Wick." Harry was confused and didn't know what was wrong. John pulled out his wand and turned the snake into black smoke. He looked up at Harry. His eyes were so deep that Harry was a little scared. "Today's duel club is over, let's go away." John gave Lockhart a look, and Lockhart would understand and announce the end. It's just that there will be more storms in the follow-up this time. Chapter 78. Rumors stop at the Strong in Christmas. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Harry Potter is a Parseltongue. Everyone in the auditorium saw this scene, which pushed Harry to the forefront. Some people say that Harry is the heir, and others have found John, hoping that he will clean up the scourge. In this regard, John told them not to think about it, but in a short time, Harry has become synonymous with the heir. There are even conspiracy theories that Voldemort killed Harry because he was afraid that Harry would take the position of the Dark Lord, which made John laugh. The blizzard put an end to the afternoon herbal medicine class. Harry was taken away by Professor McGonagall. John was in the auditorium, and Percy sat beside him drinking warm pumpkin juice. "Sorry, we didn't find it. I searched for Harry's luggage 3 times. Hearing Percy's apologetic words, John shook his head helplessly and said, "Percy, you have to trust Harry, he can't be the heir." "Okay." Percy agreed. John knew he still had doubts about Harry, but John didn't expose them. Harry's Parseltongue made John think a little bit. Maybe he could use Harry to open the secret room, but now that Harry was taken away by Professor McGonagall, he had to wait. "I'll prove he's not." John assured Percy that he was the savior, and what if he got jealous and quit? Percy left, and John took out the Marauder's map to check. No one has been there for a long time except for the three of Harry. The basilisk cannot get out without opening the secret room. Hogwarts is safe. What are the three of them doing there? Thinking of the smell of boiling potion when he went in last time, John looked a little weird. The three little ones can't boil potions in it, can they? Boiling potion in the girls' bathroom, is there a smell in the picture? In fact, John is also a hungry man who doesn't know how hungry he is. He has a room of responsiveness that can be switched at any time, but Harry and the others don't. It can't be made in the Gryffindor lounge, can it? Harry comes out from Dumbledore. Dumbledore asks him what he knows, which he hides, because Ron said that hearing other voices may not be a good thing. He chose to hide it psychologically. It's just that gossip at school makes him irritable, especially when he secretly puts on the sorting hat in the principal's office. The old hat still thought he should go to Slytherin. This made him wonder if he was the heir of Slytherin. Hermione saw his troubles, had an idea, and said, "You can find John. He will help you." John? Harry recalled another scene, on the duel stage. From his perspective, he saw John's eyes change. Those eyes were like the eyes of a snake. He hesitated for a while and said, "Will it be troublesome?" Hermione knew John very well and said affirmatively, "John will wait for you too, you know he is very good to his friends." Friend? Harry was silent for a while. In the end, Harry chose to go to John. At the castle-covered bridge, Harry came over with a feeling of apprehension. John was not surprised to see him coming, and said softly, "Are you struggling with your differences?" "What about John? Do you think I'm the heir of Slytherin?" Harry stared into John's eyes. John chuckled, a very bright smile. "Stop making trouble, you are the savior, how could you be the heir of Slytherin?" As if he heard some joke, John couldn't stop laughing. Harry was a little annoyed by the laughter. "Enough, it's not funny." Harry was taken aback by himself, that he was yelling so loudly. John stopped laughing, stared at Harry, and said seriously, "You are not the heir of Slytherin, at least not now." Seeing that Harry was still doubting and hesitating, John chuckled lightly and said, "Rumors only stop with the strong, Harry. Those who are strong enough don't care who is whose heir." With a tremor in his heart, Harry looked at John, seeing that he was not joking. Harry sighed and said, "If only they were all like you. You can't expect everyone to be like this. The strong lead the weak. This is the same truth." John propped his hands on the railing of the corridor bridge and looked at the place covered with snowflakes in the distance. Christmas is here. Many people left the school, but not all of them left. Even some Muggle wizards stayed at the school because John Wick gave them a sense of security. John Wick will protect us like he protected Justin Finch. The scene of the dueling club gave John a good impression of Muggle wizards, and they even thought that John was their patron saint. Some people put a picture of John fighting the basilisk next to their bed, as if to protect them. Get up in the morning. John has received many packages. He opened one and it was from Cedric. Inside was a new style of small bag, which he seemed to think John liked. There are too many gifts. If you want to open it, you can take a day to open it. John chose to dismantle it at night and walked out of the dormitory. He saw the blonde girl and the brunette girl. Daphne and Pansy, they didn't come home. It was a little strange that the two didn't go home, but John didn't take it to heart. Malfoy was already waiting for John in the common room. Seeing John coming out, he complained a little, "You asked me to get up so early, and I ended up going to bed late." "It's not that I went to bed late, this is to draw up a project for you." Malfoy gave John a blank look when he heard the words, and it was true. Malfoy didn't go back for Christmas. He wanted to strengthen himself in school. At the dueling club, he and Harry exchanged jinxes and ended up getting hanged. Although an oolong was released later, it did no harm to Harry at all. He found John and asked to strengthen himself, and John naturally agreed. The two left the Slytherin dungeon and came to the defense against the dark arts classroom. Since it is necessary to train, it is natural to have a spacious place. John took out the boggart, a cabinet Malfoy was too familiar with. Every time John takes it out in class, he always wonders how it can hold so many creatures, so the two began to teach hand in hand. Of course, John was in charge of speaking, and Malfoy was in charge of practicing. In the evening, before the sky completely darkened. John had to stop training to head to the room of requirement. When Malfoy went back, he met Goyle and Crabbe. These two servants always did what Malfoy did. Seeing the two of them staring blankly, he kindly led them back. Little did they know that the two of them at this time were changed by Harry and Ron, and Malfoy likes to show off once he is free. He knows a lot of inside information from Lucius Malfoy, such as the secret room that was once opened. Felix Elixir is really hard to get. Looking at the blessing elixir that had not been successfully refined, John couldn't help shaking his head, as expected of the top potion, not to mention the long refining time. It can't be sloppy. Potion is a branch of alchemy. John has alchemy skills, and he even learned the potion. Now that his level has reached level 3, he can already be regarded as an experienced alchemist. Put the materials needed for Felicia in it. John looked after it for a while and confirmed that there was no problem. In the room of requirement, he attempts to imbue Iron Wick with a new enchantment. Dragon blood can enhance the flame spell, so what can other magical creatures enhance? John pondered for a while, still not sure which enchantment to arrange for Iron Wick's sword. After all, it is not a product of alchemy like the sword of Gryffindor. The sword itself of Iron Wick is still a muggle item. Once a mistake is made, the entire sword may be scrapped, which is a bit troublesome. After struggling for a while, John temporarily put down the idea of enchanting. He held out his hand without using his wand, trying to cast without a wand. Mood, I need a mood. John closed his eyes and meditated, emotions driving magic. The expression on his face changed gradually to anger, and John raised his hand to clap. The chest of the humanoid target in front of him exploded. Ha! Anger, although it's hard to control, it's okay. To talk about the simplest and extreme emotion, anger is a good choice. John just thought of someone forcing himself to eat stargazing pie, and the anger came out. It is indeed possible to cast spells without a wand. John tried a few times, and he could use simple magic under extreme anger. There is no shortage of dinners in the castle, and John went to the dinner after training. On the way, he met Gore and Crabbe, who woke up in a daze. He was a little strange. Chapter 79 Uncle's Gift and Catwoman. Hermione. You are listening at novelfull.audio. John's out of gregariousness is already common in Slytherins. You don't usually see John over dinner, even at Christmas dinner. By the time John arrived, the dinner party was over, but when he sat down, a steaming turkey, potatoes, and bread emerged from the golden plate in front of him. Thank you. He murmured his thanks, not sure if the house elf working in the kitchen could hear him, because he often misses dinner. John comes and goes and gets to know the house elf in the kitchen. They always left a copy for John at dinner, and it was the same today. The knife cut a slice from the turkey, took out the little old godmother that was left and spread it on the bread. With turkey bread and leaganma, John narrowed his eyes in satisfaction. After finishing dinner, John returned to the Slytherin dungeon. Malfoy was furious, and when he saw John, he said warily, "Are you John?" John was confused. "Of course I am." Evidence. Malfoy looked like a little boy who had just been tricked into candy, and he already had his wand in his hand. As long as John has no evidence, he intends to make the guy who lied to him just suffer. John thought for a while, then waved to Malfoy. While wary of John, Malfoy passed by. After arriving in front of him, John's left hand was like a poisonous snake, making Malfoy unable to react. He grabbed the hand holding the wand and twisted it, and the wand fell out of that hand. Immediately afterwards, John grabbed Malfoy's collar with his right hand and lifted him up easily. Malfoy was strangled, clapped John's hand and hastily surrendered. I believe it, I believe it. It'd be better if it didn't happen sooner. Let go of Malfoy's buttocks. John walked to the side and sat down. Tom, who had been running around in the Slytherin lounge, ran to the sofa to be petted. Ahem, there are two guys pretending to be Goyle and Crabbe. Malfoy was absolutely convinced that no one in Hogwarts other than John would have such strength. He said viciously, "If you let me know who it is, I will let him know how powerful the curse is." Masquerading as Goyle and Crabbe? Is it a compound potion? John stroked Tom's dog's head, and Tom made the dog lie down comfortably. He thought of the three little ones. Except for them, no one would do this. What did you tell them? John, who knew the answer, was curious about what the third little one asked. It should be the heir or something. After all, they have always suspected Malfoy." Malfoy hesitated, and said, "Basically, I'm talking, Draco, it's time for you to change your habit." John was speechless. "Before anyone asked, you sent the information directly." Malfoy was embarrassed, so he turned his anger on Goyle and Crabbe. "It's all your fault, why come back so late? We ate a cake and passed out." The two of Gore were also very aggrieved. John patted Tom's dog's head to make it get up from the ground. "Okay, that's it." Getting up to go back to the dormitory, Malfoy stopped John before leaving. "John, they also asked about you." John was taken aback. Malfoy nodded and said, "I said you often don't know where you've gone." Is this doubting yourself?" "John thinks it shouldn't be, he is a true Muggle wizard," probably Harry asked casually, curious about his life in Slytherin. Not paying attention, John returned to the dormitory. Now he was free to deal with the pile of Christmas presents. "Most of them were sent by my group of pen pals. After all, interpersonal relationships still need to be maintained, and John also sent a lot on Christmas." Open one, which was sent by Neville. "It contains a beautiful glass ball, and when placed next to the candle, stars will be projected." Hermione sent a delicate quill, Ron sent wizard chess, and Harry sent a Quidditch book. "There are also cufflinks from my mother, and a wizard hat from my father. It seems that the material is made by Muggles and handmade." Dad Watson Wick's letter hinted that John could bring him a golden snitch back home, probably because he was interested in the Quidditch books he brought back during the summer vacation, and Mrs. Wick's letter is just one sentence: "Tell your father to go to hell, don't listen to him." The presents were almost unwrapped, and John looked at the last one. The address above surprised him for a moment, but it was still sent from his own home. Open the gift, and there is a letter inside. He picked it up and glanced at it. "My favorite Yadani, I hope you receive my gift. It's a pity that you didn't come to our house for Christmas this year, but it's okay if you didn't come, because the family has not been peaceful recently. The situation is turbulent, and your uncles are also affected. Father is old, and there are still some people who want to invite him out. They were all kicked out by me, this group of inhuman guys trying to squeeze out the last trace of value. Well, let's not talk about it. Remember that brown bear whose cubs grew up stronger than their mother? I wish you could come and see it next year. I haven't taken you hunting yet. Love, your uncle, Serioza Jovanovic." Yadani Jovanovic, this name is only called by his grandfather's family. "This letter was sent home by my uncle and then forwarded by Mrs. Wick." A trace of nostalgia flashed in John's eyes. Although his uncles like to wrestle with brown bears, they really love him. Even though they haven't been back for a long time, the uncles will still insist on sending gifts. "I don't know what uncle gave me." With anticipation, John opened the book-sized gift box. After unpacking the white polka dot gift bag paper, a black box that looks expensive is revealed. John solemnly opened the box, and the matte black thing lay quietly inside. Seeing this, John was lost in thought. He kept the open posture, and reclosed and opened the box without giving up. "Well, what's inside hasn't changed." He picks up the contents with a deadpan expression. The comfortable grip is a bit big for a small child, but John develops faster than a child, so it's about right. Synthetic handles, matte black for good concealment and not exposed by reflections. The overall weight is light. The caliber is 9mm, the effective range is 50 meters, and the magazine capacity is 17 rounds. That's right, this is a gun. Uncle gave himself a pistol. John felt that either he was crazy, or that his uncle's brain circuit was different from ordinary people. A wizard with a gun, that there are not many bullets in the box, only 17, I think it's uncle who doesn't want to commit crimes. Damn. If someone decent gives a pistol to a child, he is only 12 years old. Uncle, you are too hardcore. Silently putting the pistol back, John decided to seal the gun. The second day of Christmas, John heard that Hermione was hospitalized, and he was a good friend. He went to the school hospital to visit, only to see a hairy face, rubbing his eyes. When John looked again, his face was covered by his hands. Don't look at John, leave quickly. Hermione covered her face and was ashamed to see anyone. John said with a strange expression, don't tell me you want to be a Catwoman even if you admire Professor McGonagall. That why didn't he remember that Hermione's transfiguration had reached this level? Hermione was even more ashamed by being told that she wanted to be like Millicent Burst, and she even had a hand-to-hand fight with him in the dueling club. However, Millicent Burst raised a cat, and what she got was cat hair, which made her ashamed of others. John suppressed a laugh, and Hermione was about to throw him out. Well, it's pretty cute this way, isn't it? John even had the urge to rub the cat's head with his hands, but he held back considering that he would be bitten by the future Minister of Magic. Before Hermione was about to throw the pillow out, John took out his wand and made a curtain for Hermione to close. I hope you recover as soon as possible. By the way, give me the badge under your pillow by the way. John had left the badge under Harry's pillow the last time and had forgotten about it. It happened that Hermione and Harry slept in the same bed last time, but they didn't know that these things don't need to be washed. Expressing concern about the health of the school hospital, John got his badge back. Hermione was a little puzzled when she saw this, and John said casually, last time Harry was attacked by a bludger, I think we should see who did it. It seems that the heir didn't look for him. Okay. When it came to the heir, Hermione felt a little guilty, and they turned into Slytherins to ask Malfoy. After saying goodbye to Hermione, John left the school hospital. Chapter 80 Snape's Suspicion and the Durmstrang Letter. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The Christmas school was not so interesting. Apart from staring at the Marauders map every day, John let Malfoy feel Neville's pain. Can't hold on, you can say it, I never force you. John spoke lightly. He was standing outside the Whomping Willow, and Malfoy was being chased by the branches of the Whomping Willow. Shut up, John. Malfoy had already been hit a few times, and at first he would be confused as to why wizards were training to dodge, until John escaped Malfoy's 3 curses in a row. This let Malfoy know the importance of body skills. John didn't shut his mouth, his tone was full of sarcasm. You were right not to let Gore and the others come over, you are too embarrassed now. Malfoy of the Holy 28, his offspring can't even beat a tree. Maybe your father is right. After all, your family's property can make you live like a useless person. I forgot, maybe it's not just like. His words were like knives, which upset Malfoy, and he was whipped by the beating willow and flew away if he was careless. Look at you, you look like a rat being chased away with a broom. How much money did your family donate to Hogwarts to convince them to let you into the school? John took out a turkey sandwich and bit it down. The cozy look was full of hatred. Malfoy was full of resentment, and a voice appeared in his head. Why should he watch that muggle wizard enjoy himself? The noble pure blood shouldn't suffer like this. The rage-level sword. Malfoy couldn't take it after being kicked out again. Taking out his wand, Malfoy cast a spell at the annoying Whomping Willow. Just as the spell was about to hit the Whomping Willow, the iron armor charm appeared in that place. The first layer of the iron armor curse was directly shattered, and the second layer stopped the attack. The Whomping Willow was enraged, and this time the willow branch was faster and fiercer. If Malfoy couldn't dodge, he was about to be hit. Seeing this, John took out his wand and cast a levitating spell to drag Malfoy back. Seeing that his face was still angry, John applauded and praised. This time the power has increased compared to the last time. Keep the feeling just now. John was testing the range of emotions affecting the power of the spell. After Malfoy was provoked just now, the power of the spell was increased by half. Although this kind of emotion affects the accuracy, the power increase is very impressive. John took out a pen to write on the note, glanced at Malfoy who was still angry, and said speechlessly, "You asked me to train again." Malfoy also knew whether John was improving his strength, or he was a little out of control. Usually at this time, John only needs to use a sleeping spell on him. Okay, it's time for bed again. Without giving Malfoy a chance to react, John directly covered his face with a sleeping spell to allow Malfoy to sleep like a baby. Tell Goyle and Crabbe to take Malfoy back. They are used to Malfoy falling asleep every day from exhaustion. Scribbling in his notes, John closed the book and stuffed it into his satchel. Anger is good, but it's better to use it sparingly. This time Draco's emotions lasted longer. Continuing on, John felt that one day Malfoy would shoot himself if he got too involved. Although it is a pity, John still intends to temporarily terminate. He didn't know that his every move was watched by someone with dark eyes. Snape found Dumbledore. Dumbledore, it's time for you to take care of John Wick. In the principal's office, Snape no longer had that yin and yang look, but anger revealed in his tone. What's wrong, Severus? Dumbledore looked up from the table, he was a little surprised to see Snape's appearance. "He's gaining power bit by bit, don't tell me you don't know, Dumbledore." As a former Death Eater, Snape saw the shadow of another person in John, the same extraordinary talent, the same handsomeness, and the same bewitching people around. John Wick, except for his blood, this boy is a complete copy of that person. There was some madness in his voice, and the gloomy voice seemed to be fished out of the water. He is imitating the mysterious man. He will not be content with being ordinary. Slytherin is the best proof. In just one school year, he has made Slytherin his own. Seeing how excited he was, Dumbledore said calmly, "Calm down, Severus, he's just a child. Voldemort was once just a child." Snape said word by word, even saying the person's name. "He's worried, John Wick." Snape had a sneer on his face, and said in a strange voice, "Don't tell me, you don't know what he's doing. He was exposed to black magic in the first grade, he was forbearing and showed his ambition, even Draco Malfoy bowed to him now pride." "Dumbledore, we all know what that means, the heir of Slytherin, how do you know he's not?" "Severus." Dumbledore's expression turned serious, which calmed Snape a little. "It's a serious allegation, you know." Staring at the sword of Gryffindor with wise eyes, Dumbledore said softly, "I believe John Wick will not become that person. He is different, he has relatives, friends, and love." Snape had calmed down at this moment. He looked at Dumbledore coldly, his voice returned to normal. "Hope you're right, we don't have a second Dumbledore." After he finished speaking, he left. Dumbledore was left alone and thought. Voldemort was a piece of Snape's heart disease, he killed Snape's love. Dumbledore knew all this, and so did he. When Voldemort was in the second year, he was far less outstanding than John. The people around John were all close because of their strength. There was no blood, only strength. This is like being another person. Dumbledore looked at Gryffindor's sword and sighed, "I hope it's you, John. Once opened the Gryffindor Chamber of Secrets, if it weren't for Harry, Dumbledore couldn't think of anyone better than John. If it's John, then he won't be the next Voldemort." Snape was right, there is no second Dumbledore in the wizarding world, the third Dark Lord. They couldn't afford it. John didn't know that because of his relationship. Snape and Dumbledore had a quarrel. He was opening an envelope, which came from an owl. It's just that after the owl was delivered, it looked like it was about to die of exhaustion. The seal on the envelope was something John had never seen before, and the bat was holding the sword. The address is Durmstrang. When opened, there was a letter and a scale-like thing inside. "Fire Dragon Scales." Opening the letter, John saw a line of flowing fonts. "I'm here to find you." Why does this thing feel like a threatening letter? John was lost in thought. Could it be a prank by the Weasley twins? He noted the sender's name, Hadrick Edgar. The name brought him back to the day of summer vacation when he and Fleur fell in the forest, the Durmstrang student who was dueling with him. "Find me?" Thinking about it carefully, "I didn't do anything to anger the other party, so why did I send a threatening letter?" "Forget it, don't worry about it." John, who couldn't figure it out, simply gave up and went to the room of requirement. John has a new parchment in his hand, and he wants to try to reproduce the Marauder's map. This thing is a student's work. Logically speaking, no matter how high the level of alchemy is, there is a limit. Level 3 alchemy should be able to do it barely. It is not very useful to reproduce it. Mainly because I want to learn the application of Zongxi inside. This kind of Marauder's map can mark people who enter Hogwarts, and it has magic similar to Zongxi. John has pulled out Zongxi before, and knows a little about Zongxi. The 4 people who were able to combine the two and make the map were geniuses. Inside the room of responsiveness, John first added ingredients to the Felicity elixir. Felicia is nearing completion, and it is estimated that it can be completed after the start of the next semester. John was also about to enter the Slytherin chamber at that time.